Our planet is full of strange, unique and sometimes odd places. Some natural and some man-made. Some of them are fascinating and some are just utterly bizarre. In this video, we will give you some of the most mind-boggling places we could find. I'm your host Sam and you're watching the Geography Bible. If you are not a subscriber, then consider subscribing. It is completely free and you can always unsubscribe at any time. Alright, let's start this video with Poniente Almeriense. If you are European and go grocery shopping, you will notice that around half of the fruits and vegetables available at any supermarket are from Spain. No surprise here, as the country's Mediterranean climate favours year-round farming. Yet what most people do not know is that most of the harvesting comes from an area of just under 1,000 kilometers squared. Poniente Almeriense, also known as the Garden of Europe, that covers a flat coastal territory just south of the popular resort town of Almira. It all started in the 60s when the area known as Campo de Dalias started hosting the first intensive farming facilities. By the year 2000, the area had been entirely covered in plastic greenhouses. The two main controversies this practice is facing concern the near-slave conditions of the workers, mostly from Africa, and the pollution it produces, as discarded plastic waste ends up in the Mediterranean, heavily impacting the marine environment. North Sentinel Island. Many of you may be familiar with this island, as there are many highly viewed YouTube videos about it. It is truly fascinating. North Sentinel Island is part of the Andaman Islands in India. The islands contain no natural harbours, is surrounded by sharp coral reefs, and is covered almost entirely in dense forest. The indigenous tribe inhabiting the Manhattan-sized island is almost completely uncontacted for nearly 60,000 years, and are thought to be direct descendants from the first humans who emerged from Africa. They are likely the only human race that remains unaffected from modern civilization. Recent contact attempts in the 70s, 80s, 90s and even noughties by National Geographic, a naval sailing ship and the Indian government respectively, were all met with a relentless bombardment of arrows. Since 2006, after the attempts to retrieve two mud crabbers who came too close and were killed by the tribe, no further contact has been attempted. Experts believe that there are between 40 and 500 people on the island. No one is quite sure what Sentinelese tribe do within the cover of the trees, but they believe this tribe has no developed agriculture and still relies on hunting and gathering. Now this blows my mind. The fact that there are humans living on an island with absolutely no idea about the outside world is just nuts. What do they think when they see and hear an aeroplane or a helicopter going past? What do they think of the humans who have tried to visit? We will likely never get these answers, and this is a good thing. The Red Beach in Tianjin, China. Sand is probably the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about a beach. However, this is not the case with Panjin Red Beach in China, which is actually red and not covered in sand whatsoever. Such a phenomenon is caused by a type of red plant called sueda. It starts growing during April and May, stays green during the summer, but then starts to vividly turn red in the autumn. The Red Beach is located in the biggest wetland and reed marsh in the world. The nature reserve has become home to more than 260 kinds of birds and nearly 400 kinds of wild animals. The Zhangji forest, China. Does this forest look familiar to you? Perhaps you've seen the movie Avatar, which inspired its famous floating forest scenes from this forest. Rising from the subtropical and temperate forests of northwest Hunan's Zhangji has a concentration of quartzite sandstone formations found nowhere else in the world. Some 240 peaks and more than 3,000 pinnacles and spires dominate the scenery in this UNESCO protected park. If caught in the right light or when the early morning mountain mist rolls in, the effect is like nothing else you'll see on the planet. It is almost as if these pinnacles and spires are floating in thin air. Socotra Island. Socotra is located in the Indian Ocean and is closer to Somalia than to mainland Yemen, having broken off from the Arabian Peninsula around 100 million years ago. The island has a total population of around 70,000 people, and they speak their own Socotri language. Around a third of the plant species in Socotra are endemic, meaning that they are not found anywhere else in the world. Socotra is a remarkable destination for camping, exploring, hiking, and immersing oneself in a natural world like you will find nowhere else on the planet. It is an ecological paradise. One of the most famous trees is the Socotra dragon tree, a very unique tree which you will only find on this small island, Napi Tau. If you drive about 5 or 6 hours directly north of Myanmar's old capital, Yangon, you will find a very large city which appears to be abandoned. You have now arrived at the country's new capital, Napi Tau, and it isn't abandoned because it was never inhabited in the first place. It is roughly 4 times the size of London. It's no secret that the capital was meant to attract the people of Myanmar. The location of Yangon was reportedly too exposed, and the capital was moved to Naypyidaw in 2005. At the time, this city barely even existed. It is gigantic, has luxurious hotels, nice restaurants, shopping malls, and a 20-lane highway. Yet, there is nobody about, no cars on the roads, and nobody buying from the shops. As mentioned earlier, it is roughly the size of London. However, London has a population of around 9 million, whereas Naypyidaw does not even have 1 million inhabitants. The chocolate hills of Bohol Island, the Philippines. Bohol's 1,700 odd conical hills dot the middle of the island. They range in height but are so regular in shape that they could be mistaken for being man-made structures. However, according to UNESCO, they are the uplift of coral deposits and a result of rainwater erosion. The hills earn their chocolate nickname in the dry season when the foliage goes from lush green to brown. The Pink Lake in Western Australia. Once the lake water reaches a salinity level greater than that of the sea, and the temperature is high enough and adequate light conditions are provided, the algae begins to accumulate the red pigment, beta-carotene, hence the pink colour. Fun fact, a couple of years ago I was very close to visiting this lake with my drone. However, like most people, I underestimated the size of Australia. When I looked how close it was on a map, I thought it wasn't too far away, but it turned out to be a 16-hour drive, and I just could not fit that into my trip. Rainbow Mountain, Peru. Vinicunca, also known as the Mountain of 7 Colours, or more simply, the Rainbow Mountain, was discovered only in 2015 when the snow covering it melted, revealing the natural beauty of the rock beneath. Formed by weathering, environmental conditions, and sedimentary deposits over time, the mountain's unique mineralogy created a marbling effect, with layer hues of gold, lavender, red, and turquoise towering into the sky. It is now considered a holy site in Peru. The mountain has become a hotspot for international tourists, and is now the second most visited attraction in the Cusco region thanks to local tour operators and of course the insane amount of Instagram posts. Kuber Peddi. Kuber Peddi, the town that lives underground in the middle of the Australian outback. What began in 1916 as perhaps the largest opal mining operation in the world has since expanded into a subterranean community that is very safely out of reach from the region's 120 degrees summers. Entire bedrooms, bookstores, churches and bars are installed in the carved underground walls of Kuber Peddi, and after over 100 years of living in these dugouts, the people who live there call it home and have no plans of moving out. The Tunnel of Love, Ukraine. The Tunnel of Love is located between Klevan and the village of Oziv on the Kovel-Rivne line, a distance of 7 kilometers. Near Oziv, the line splits into two. One leads to Klevan and the other leads to a secret military base from the Cold War era. Hidden in the forest back in those days, the trees were deliberately planted alongside the track to conceal and hide any transport of military hardware. The military base is possibly still in use because Google Maps shows large numbers of military vehicles in the area. These days, it is more of a tourist attraction for couples in love to take cheesy selfies together. Magnetic Hill. This small stretch of road, located about 30 kilometers from Les City, is unique because of its outright defiance of gravity. Quite simply, the road pushes stationary vehicles upwards. When left with the engine turned off, a car can roll up a speed of 20 kilometers an hour up a hill. Due to this extraordinary phenomenon, it has been given the name Mystery Hill and Gravity Hill. There are two theories that can explain the reason behind this uphill movement. The most common is that the hill has a strong magnetic force, which is why it pulls vehicles up the hill. In fact, so strong is this magnetic force that planes of the Indian Air Force avoid this route so that they don't face the magnetic interference on their devices. Another equally popular and more logical theory is that it is simply an optical illusion. According to this, the hill does not really have a magnetic force, but it just creates an optical illusion that the road, which actually goes downhill, seems to go uphill. Therefore, when you see the vehicle going upslope, it is actually the opposite and does not defy the laws of nature and gravity. Spotted Lake, British Columbia. In winter and spring, the lake located northwest of Osayuse in British Columbia's Okanagan Valley looks just like any other body of water. But as most of the water starts to evaporate in the summer, hundreds of huge pools are left behind, leaving a polka dot landscape of yellow, green and blue spots. The thing that I find most incredible about this lake is that there are 365 individual pools, the same amount of days that are in a year, so it sounds like a man-made attraction, but it isn't, it's just a coincidence. The colourful pools are the result of high concentration of minerals including calcium, sodium sulfate and magnesium sulfate that have collected in the water. The minerals and a collection of salts have run off from surrounding hills. The various colours depend on the concentration of the minerals in each pool. So there we have it, some of the most bizarre places in the world. Did you enjoy this video? Would you like to see part 2? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and we will see you very soon in the next video.